I vowed to transform the entirety of Minecraft, taking all of the in-game and naturally spawning structures and transforming them. Last time, we transformed a desert temple, and I asked for 100,000 likes if you want to see me do more of these mass transformations of the in-game structures. And we practically doubled the like goal, so I think that's the case. So if you want another vanilla transformation, then once again, I'm going to ask for 100k likes on this video. Also, you might as well subscribe while you're at it. Only 20% of you watching right now are actually subscribed. So if you like the content, then why not stick around for a while? Now, I don't know if you've ever actually come across a jungle temple before in Minecraft, but it will probably look a little something like this. They're usually in a very densely populated jungle, and they're rather small. And the inside has a few booby traps and a little bit of treasure. So here are a few key features that we need to address for this transformation. First things first, we're going to completely upgrade the surrounding jungle and give us a bit of space to work with, as vanilla Minecraft jungle is usually a complete mess. Secondly, we're going to upgrade the overall design of the temple and make it much bigger. And thirdly, add a few custom booby traps and include some actual treasure inside our newly created jungle temple. So, starting with the jungle, I thought it'd be best to make an entirely new landscape that would house our new jungle temple smack in the center of the map. Using a bunch of custom brushes, I was able to quickly whip up some mountains and easily create river valleys to break up the jungle. Now, I wasn't really sure how large I wanted the temple to be at this stage when making the world, so I just made sure to provide an island in the middle of it and leave enough space around it to work with later on in the build. Our jungle mountain range is complete, but it's looking a little bit bare. So let's create a bunch of custom trees to fill it in. Regular Minecraft jungle trees are, well, they're pretty ugly, let's face it. So I figured now we have this brand new landscape to work with, why not create various different types of jungle trees to decorate it with? I started by creating some dark wood, messy looking jungle trees covered in moss and vines for an overgrown look. In fact, that's basically the whole theme of this project. I said I wanted to make a few variations of different trees, so I also decided to make some palm trees and light oak jungle trees to add into the mix. With our custom trees done, I wanted to quickly make some shrubbery that I could scatter around the temple. These would really help things to look very natural and even more overgrown. Now that we've got all of our greenery ready, we can start filling in the mountain range and make a proper jungle. Although because I'd made so many variations of trees and shrubbery, I forgot to realize how long this would actually take. This was only 1/4 of the map. So let's get things moving, shall we? The thing is, jungles obviously are meant to be very overgrown and wild. So the plan was to make a jungle that was organized, but still looked messy. With half of the map jungleified, it was really starting to come together. And while it was a pretty painstaking process, I was happy that I decided to make all those variations of trees, as it made for a very realistic outcome. Finally, I filled in the last section of the map with our trees and shrubbery. I'm not sure how many individual trees I ended up pasting in, but I know it was enough. Now, while we may have plenty of trees in our jungle, I felt that there were still a few large dead spaces within the mountains that needed to be filled in. So I figured to add to this lush and natural landscape, we had to include a few custom waterfalls bursting out of the mountains. I've used this technique so many times now, but it's still the best way to create some crazy waterfall designs and not have Minecraft's water physics cause it to leak, spread and cover everything you've built in an uncontrollable rage. By converting the red wool into barrier blocks and the blue wool into water, it holds the liquid in place, keeping that desired waterfall shape. As you can see, I've made several waterfalls all around the map, meaning I think we're done making our new jungle. With the jungle complete, I pasted the vanilla jungle temple into our newly created world and prepped for transformation. I moved the vanilla jungle temple to one side as I wanted to create the foundations for the temple. As usual, I used various reference images for inspiration for this build and ended up basing the design on Aztec pyramids. Now, funnily enough, these pyramids are like Egyptian pyramids, like the one that featured in the last transformation. However, these structures have staircases that ascend to a flat top, which usually resides a temple. This is where I repositioned the original vanilla jungle temple for later transformation. After blocking things out to get a basic and overall shape, I had to go in and begin etching in Aztec patterns and designs along the walls to detail and break up the solid grey canvas, without compromising the initial shape of the pyramid walls. With one corner done, I copied the design around to every other side of the temple. With the base layer of the pyramid detailed, I continued a similar format upwards for the remaining layers. By using polished black stone and grey concrete, I was able to easily add depth to the designs in the walls without adding too many layers and making things too complex. As you can see, each layer is similar to each other, but not quite the same. They each feature different Aztec patterns to differentiate each level. Lastly, I carved out the wall of the staircase and added black stone to further break up some of the grey, before mirroring the design around the pyramid. Along the side of these grand staircases, I started building out a podium to reside a fire plinth. I detailed it using some of the new 1.16 blocks and added a custom flame atop it using stained glass. Then, when the fire plinth is complete, I duplicated the design to sit on each level of the pyramid, and lastly, mirrored it to the other side of the staircase. Now, what's a little fire without some water? So, I decided to add these water channels throughout the top of each level to the pyramid. I positioned them along the edge so that water could flow over and down to every level of the pyramid. With our newly created jungle temple finally coming together, I noticed the island it resided on was too large. So I cut away at the landscape and built down a cobblestone base. I etched out some water tunnels to surround the pyramid and built staircases down to a lower section. Continuing to cut away at the landscape, I brought out a singular section of terrain, as this cliff section that protrudes out of the island would support the bridge to the jungle temple. Before bridging across to the jungle, I thought now would be the best time to upgrade our original vanilla temple and finish off the top of the pyramid. The vanilla jungle temple has windows and every side was open to the surroundings. But that's probably because they are based on ruins that have been worn down with time. So to somewhat mimic this, I went for a very open design and left each wall open on every side of the temple. Following some of the reference images I found online, I came up with this menacing looking face design that came together by using pillars and fire plinths to act as the teeth for the face, while detailing the second level with eyes and a snout. You could even argue that if piglings lived in the overworld, they might adopt this as their new home. This is the only entrance into the temple, so I had to make it look intimidating to ward off any thieves looking for treasure. As you can see, there is a lot of ugly, unfinished island remaining. So it was time to do a bit of manual terraforming to neaten it up and flesh it into the base of the jungle temple. Sand is the best way to do this, as it falls naturally when placed, so it can be used to easily create some decent looking cliffs and mountains. The only downside to it though, is that your PC might catch fire now and then. After changing the sand into a mixture of rock and grass, the island was almost complete. Out front, I began building out the remains of a large stone bridge that arched over the water below and connected each of the islands together. After creating that broken up bridge design, I was able to copy and reuse it to the other islands after neatening up any sections of broken terrain it caused along the way. I included these large floodgates along the base and all the way around the jungle temple for a beautiful final effect once I converted the blue wool into water. Now these temples have lasted for thousands of years, and while the main structure of them tends to remain intact, nature gradually claims back what was once hers, leaving sections mossy, overgrown and crumbling away. I achieved this by mixing in various mossy stone blocks and used slabs and stairs to break up some of the stone and act as debris. Lastly, we must decorate the few remaining islands and even the jungle temple itself with some trees and shrubbery, but before finishing the build off, there's one more thing to do. While the original large stone bridge had decayed and crumbled away with time, jungle tribes and explorers need a way to cross the islands and access the temple. So I laid out these large rope bridges. But with that, our jungle temple transformation is complete. I hope you guys enjoyed this vanilla Minecraft transformation, and if you want to see more of these, then as I mentioned earlier, get this video to 100k likes. And make sure to leave your suggestions down below in the comments as to what I should do for it next. Now, if you want to download this or any of my previous builds, then you can do so over on my Patreon. It's a subscription service, yes, but you can simply pay for 1 month, which is only $5, and you have access to all of my builds. And then if you wanted to, you could simply cancel your subscription and you'll still have access to all of my builds for that month period while it's active. Obviously, if you decide to stick around and continue to support me on Patreon, then obviously you're the real ones. Anyway, happy holidays, Merry Christmas and all that. And hopefully this added a little something to end off your 2020. I'll see you in the next one.